Morena, good morning. A big hello from me, because I'm the only one here. My name is Karen, and me and my husband Elijah are the lead pastors of Unite, and we just want to say a big hello, a big welcome. If you are watching in your neighbourhood church, a big hello, give someone a high five next to you. Psh, psh. And if you're watching by yourself, give yourself a high five. And we just want to say a big hello and thanks for tuning in. We are a church of churches, and we are all meeting this morning in different spots around the Nelson region. And if you're interested and you want to know more about what we're doing at Unite with our neighbourhood churches, then jump onto our website, which is www.unitechurch.org.nz, and there's a connect card on there that you can fill in. So if you have any questions for us or you want to be a part of what we're doing, then just fill that in and we can get back to you. And also on the website, if you're wanting to give financially to what we're doing, then you can do that there as well. I just want to say a big thank you to those who are partnering with us financially. It's an awesome way to worship God, and He's amazing, so it's a good time. And yeah, big hello to all the children. Hello. We don't have our funny Bible story reading man here today. But we're just going to crack in real soon to the message. But a big hello. Every church, every one of our neighbourhood churches is doing something different with the kids. And we've heard some really awesome stories about the connections happening between kids and adults, and it's really awesome. And also just all of the generations. It's so cool to have everyone being able to be in the same room. The older people, the younger people, the in-between people. It's a really beautiful mix of God's people, and we're so here for it. So I'm just going to crack into it. So this week that we've just had as a church, we've been reading Genesis 12 to 16, and it is just like jam-packed full of incredible things that we both can be inspired by, we can learn by. We can see how human the humans in the Bible are, because sometimes it's like, oh, they're so amazing and I can't be like them, but you're like, yeah, they're pretty human, just like us. And there are so many things to say, especially about Abraham, but I have kind of narrowed it down to two things. So we're going to be talking about altars and when God takes Abraham outside to look up, so that looking up. So Abraham, many times throughout the Bible, and probably more times than are recorded, he built altars. Noah, Abraham, Moses, Jacob, Isaac all built altars in different places for different reasons, but for the same purpose: worship and remembrance of who God is and what He's doing. We also often talk about coming to the altar in a church setting. I don't know if you've been in like a modern church setting where someone will speak a message and then they open the altar, which is just kind of the front area, and somewhere that you can move physically to in response to something that God is doing in your life or saying to you. So you might have heard the term before. An altar is a place of memorial where we meet with God. It's a place of sacrifice. It's a place where you come to say, I was holding on tight to this, but now I can let it go and hold on tight to Jesus. It's a turning point, a pause or a stop moment. Yes, we can pray at any place at any time, which is so wonderful, and it's beautiful that we have the Holy Spirit in us. But there's something so powerful about taking some time to stop, to worship and to hear from God, really intentionally doing it. These days we might not build the altar out of stones, leave a pile of stones somewhere where God spoke to us. But we can build an altar in our hearts, in our memory, in our spirit. And often it takes a physical step or a pause or a break or a move for this to happen. Building an altar, like I said before, is intentional. It takes all parts of us, our body, our soul, and our spirit, our feelings, our emotions, our thoughts, our physical moving, our getting up. Just like the guys in the Bible, an altar was quite a physical business, whether it was built from rocks or whether it was built from gold or brass, whatever they had, it took some movement and it took some work. I'm sure a lot of us can look back in our lives and think, yeah, actually I have built a few altars in my life. And just like Abraham, it's vital to revisit these places and see how far God has brought us. So sometimes, I know I do it a lot, I look back and I reflect and think, man, like this is how I used to live, but there was a moment, whether it was in a church setting, whether it was I've gone for a walk or taken myself away somewhere and been impacted by God, and he's shown me something about myself that needs to change, or he's spoken something over my life. I can remember those times. And it's cool how Abraham does that. He comes back to it. And in Genesis 13:3-4, it says, "From the Negev he went from place to place until he came to Bethel, to the place between Bethel and Ai, where his tent had been earlier, and where he had first built an altar. There Abraham called on the name of the Lord." An altar is something that we build or we do to meet with God. And then I was kind of looking at then the verses that I'm about to read where God speaks to Abraham. So we build an altar to meet with God, and God uses different things to meet with us. So it comes from both sides. Genesis 15 says, "After this, the word of the Lord came to Abraham in a vision." So again, in a vision, there could be so many different ways that God speaks to us. And I think a couple of weeks ago I shared a little bit about that and how the Spirit speaks to us. And so that's obviously a way that Abraham spoke to God in a vision. So the word of the Lord came to Abraham in a vision. "Do not be afraid. I am your shield, your very great reward." But Abraham said, "Sovereign Lord, what can you give me, since I remain childless, and the one who will inherit my estate is Eliezer of Damascus?" And Abram said, "You have given me no children, so a servant in my household will be my heir." Then the word of the Lord came to him, "This man will not be your heir, but a son who is your own flesh and blood will be your heir." He took him outside and said, "Look up at the sky and count the stars, if indeed you can count them." Then he said to him, "So shall your offspring be." Abraham believed the Lord, and he credited it to him as righteousness. And these verses, especially having read all those ones that we put out, these verses hit me like a brick this week. I remember sitting at the bench in our kitchen and just like, okay, time to read the word, and it was just kind of like, whoa, like there were so many things in it that I was like, whoa. But the encounter, like the conversation with God and Abraham is beautiful. And in verse 2 it says, "But Abraham said," so God speaks and he speaks something really beautiful, and then Abraham's like, "Yeah, but what about this, and how are you going to do this, and I'm not sure about that, and I think maybe we could do it this way." And that's so relatable. We're like, yeah, okay, God's saying this, but don't see how that's going to happen, so I'll kind of shift it this way. Like, I feel like we've definitely all had those moments. But I also love the back and forth between God and Abraham, the conversational relationship that they have, which is it's so beautiful, and it's so how it could be with us and how it should be, I think, with us, because God's designed us to be relational. And then I think the bit that I love the most is how God takes him outside. So I don't know if he was asleep or if he just had a vision, but then God was like, "Let's go outside." And so Abraham gets up, and I was going to say gets off the couch. I don't think they had couches back then. Gets off the rocks. I don't know, the dirt. Anyway, but takes him outside. And it made me think so many things, like, when was the last time you let God take you outside? When was the last time God asked you to do something that seemed a little bit crazy, but you just kind of did it anyway? When was the last time you responded to God? Perhaps he was asking you to maybe reach into your pocket and give some money, or do something for someone that will bless them. Or when was the last time the Holy Spirit prompted you to send someone a message? Maybe you had an encouraging word and he wanted you to share it with someone. When was the last time you physically did something with your body in response to something that God had asked you to do? Elijah and I had a moment like this the other day where he felt prompted to to invite a couple that we love and know really well out for dinner, and to kind of spare no expense, like it was beautiful, it was amazing, as a prophetic act. And I had this moment during that dinner where because the food was like insanely amazing, and I at some points were like not listening to the conversation because I was like, yum. And I went to the toilet at some point. Too much information, sorry. And I was just like sitting there and I thought, like, God asked us to give up something and to do something like this, to do a prophetic act. But it was just so, like, it so blessed us, and it could have just been like, oh, this is so sacrificial, and, oh, like, this is my night and this is my money, and like, more. But we were just so blessed by it, by the company, by the food. And it just hit me that God is so specific with his blessing to us, and he personalizes it so much, because he knew that we would love that. And it wasn't just to bless the others, but it's so blessed us as well. One of the biggest learnings we can take from God and Abraham is how relational they are. And I think I've said it already a couple of times. And how Abraham takes notice of God, and throughout his humanness, he responds to him. So when God asks him to go outside, he goes outside and looks up at the stars. And I love that God uses like a physical illustration to kind of get his point across. Like, actually, I'm going to do what I'm going to say I'm going to do, but I'm going to show you through something that you'll understand, which I think is cool. Taking note of Abraham and all the things we've discovered about his life this week, and potentially ours, what can we learn and then actively do in the context of our neighbourhood churches? Am I a part of church because I'm comfortable, like I really love the company of the people around me, or because this is what God has called me to? And I think God has called us all to this, and not just the neighbourhood church structure, because that's just a vessel which we do this through, but the close relational growing life that we're doing with other people, getting closer and closer to other people. Is it a comfortable thing, or is it, okay, this is actually what I'm designed to do, so I'm going to put my all into this? I think Elijah mentioned it last week, but we had a baptism last week. No, a couple of weeks ago, in our church, in our neighbourhood church, and it impacted me so much, because I thought, like, yes, this is this person's decision to be baptised and to give their life to God afresh, but we all did it together, and it was so beautiful. We weren't just watching and then went home, like, it was really impacting for all of us, for those who were in the stormy water with her, for those who were holding the towels back on the beach, for those who were running around after the kids. Like, it was really beautiful in that it wasn't just a personal decision, but it was in the context of our neighbourhood church, and that just meant so much more. And so I want to ask you a question. What's your part right now? What's your relational part, your intentional relational part right now? Maybe it's being bold and having courage to share your thoughts and questions during a Sunday discussion from the readings that you've done that week. Maybe it's having someone from your church over for dinner, just to share in that fun time together, or taking someone out for coffee during the week. It could be sending someone a message of encouragement throughout the week, just some simple things like that, that you can build relationship with the other people in your church. Being intentional with yourself and your connection to the people of your church, and it will bless you. It not only will bless the others, but it will bless you too. And I think it blesses God when He designed us to be relational. He designed us to be intentional with the people around us, the believers around us, and He's very specific about that, that the believers around us need to be close and need to be intimate and need to be sharing and need to be growing together as we look to Christ. That is the design of human beings. And I think that blesses God so much when we take some courage to say, hey, do you want to grab a coffee? Or I'm going to share this, and I don't know if I quite understand it, but I'm going to give it a go anyway. Or if it's to encourage someone, that's what we're designed to do. It's not just a nice idea. It's not just to give us warm fuzzies, but we're actually designed for it. So let's do it, I reckon. So we're going to wrap up now. I'm going to wrap up. And as neighbourhood churches, it's time to kind of dig into that word in Genesis, and have some awesome discussion. And I just pray courage over you, that whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, you like speaking, you're not sure, you don't feel good enough, whatever, that you would have courage to share something. Maybe it's something you're thankful for or something that's challenged you, that you would have the courage to bring yourself and to be bold. So have an awesome discussion. We love you.